Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
The richness of our podcast. This is Mary Scott, and my guest today is from the other side of the world in Canada, and I am very excited to have her join us. One thing that excites me about this woman is the way that she is so empowering towards women, inspires women to be way more than they thought they could ever be. So let's welcome to the stage Marie Soprovich. Marie, hello to you, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Mary. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
So Marie, you started life out as an educator. You've been and still are a corporate owner. But what I experience of you is you're way more than that. But let's go back. What drew you to education in the early days of your life? You got yourself a degree and masters and all sorts of things. Tell me more about that.
Well, it wasn't a straight line in a way. I as a child, I didn't grow up dreaming that I wanted to be a teacher. I really wanted to be more of a role model and someone who created things. Movies really interested me because I thought that's such a great way to reach out to people. So I really had a dream about being in the film industry or winning an Oscar like Jane Fonda and doing cool things like that. So I went into education actually after my first year of university. I transferred over, and I certainly have no regrets for going in. And the whole thinking, the mind shift that I had was, role models or being a model or being out there, you can be that in your life. So I can be a role model by how I choose to live my life and to, be a teacher and make a difference that way. So I embraced it in an understanding that fit the image I had of what my dream was at the time. And with that, I was able to do traveling and work in other places in the world too, in my teaching career. And it certainly set me up for a very fulfilling life of making a difference. I think underneath it all, that the voice of growth and creating positive change and impact is what teachers do. Like, you're on the stage all the time. We're always on the stage. And it is a very powerful place to make a difference in the lives of others. So those are the things that really kind of grabbed me, and it became my career for many, many, many years.
It's interesting, isn't it? I talk to a lot of people, Marie. I've never heard someone say to me ever that they dreamed of being a role model. Where did that come from? That's quite a unique thing to say when you were quite young, because you were quite young when you were thinking that. Where does that come from? Where did this whole notion of role model come from?
Well, I think the idea of being a model in my teenage years was something that I was really attracted to. I wanted to understand fashion, and I really studied it and was able to order books from the library because I grew up out in the countryside, and I really wanted to learn about how to be that, like a model, a role model. So in my head, my sister once said this conversation to me, because I was talking to her about, wouldn't it be great to be in the movies and all that kind of stuff. I said, doesn't everybody want to do that? Doesn't everyone want to be a model or a movie star or all that? And she goes, no. No, that's not everybody's dream. And it made me reflect. And she's just a little older than I, and I always thought, smarter too. It's like, okay, maybe I need to really think that one through again. And then I thought, well, if I can't be that, I can be a model, a role model. I can be a role model about how to live my life as best as I can, and, you know, dress the way I want, show up, be that person, and be a role model. So it's kind of interesting how that it satiated that part of my head that really wanted that other experience. And I think it's probably the most powerful thing we can do, is to be a role model for others. You know, how do we navigate through those really difficult times? Leaving a small town, I guess, when we were out of high school, we get for our graduation, we always got suitcases. You know, it's like, you need to go. So that adventurous spirit, I think, is also extremely important in the development of what's possible.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let me say, from my perspective, Marie, and the little I know of you, you've certainly manifested that role model image, and you certainly are a role model for a lot of women around the globe. So I thank you for that, for starters.
Mhm.
Now, you went on to, you've like 30 something years as a teacher, you made your mark, but you were always making your mark. You were thinking sometimes a little bit ahead of your time. And then you got to know your husband. Tell us what happened then. You had some vision and some more fabulous ideas that you then went on to manifest again. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you just a little bit before I met him, because I had this opportunity and this vision that I would be teaching somewhere where there were palm trees growing and all this kind of stuff. And I got an opportunity to go teach in LA. And so again, those visions kind of came together. It's like, oh, this is my big break. I'm going to move down to Los Angeles and go and have a teaching job and get discovered and all of those things. So, you know, and where does that just come from? It came from, and I applied and I got interviewed and I got an opportunity, and I did move. I'd never been there before, but I love adventure. And was actually divorced from my first husband, and I had sold everything that I had. So I had no real big possessions. I was living with my sister, the same one who told me that not everybody wanted to be a movie star. And I said, I've got a job in LA and I am going to move. So she lent me her car so that I could buy one when I got down there, so I could get all that legally done. And I just drove. And honestly, Mary, I had never been uh, from, I had never been to Los Angeles before. I had no idea. I knew one person that was the principal of the school that I was going to work at. And if I needed to, she said I could call her. I never did until I showed up for work, but I had the biggest adventure finding a place to live. I drove until the end of the highway, which happened to be on Santa Monica Beach. And I pulled into a parking lot, went toward the ocean. I said, I have to go put my feet in the ocean. It's like, this is the most glorious experience of my life. And I went down there, and before I knew it, there was a gentleman who came and said, you must be new around here. It's like, how would you know? Anyhow, I had a big t-shirt on that said Canada, and I was all pale, you know, from no sunshine. And it was magical, because he was there with his wife, and was a man from Greece. So he recognized people, you know, newcomers to the area. And he also owned a number of apartment buildings in the area. So he said, I told him what I was doing. I've just arrived. I'm teaching in a part of the city called Compton. And I don't know if any of our viewers would know where Compton is, but it's definitely not Santa Monica. It's another part of LA that I had absolutely no idea of really where I was going. This is way pre-internet, and I didn't Google it because there was no Google. So he gave me some directions. He said, this parameter is a better area for you to go and look for something. And yes, you can go knocking on doors, and sometimes you might actually find someone who's got a room for rent or something like that. And then he gave me a few other instructions about what areas maybe not, avoid going that way, go ahead this way between these, Santa Monica Boulevard and San Venti, wherever. I can't even remember that all, but I did that, and I found places to live. So I found a temporary place, and I stayed there about 5 days. And then I met someone else who actually needed somebody to look after their house and their dog while he was working in Sacramento, and his kids are off in one was in France, and the other one was with her boyfriend in Sweden, and his wife had left him, and they had a little dog. So miracles happen. They really do. So when you're in the right place at the right time and your heart is open, the magic of that first year there was absolutely stunning. And I worked in Compton for 1 year, and I never missed a day of work there. And it was the grandest stage of life, of really of what's possible. Talk about getting a fish out of water in a way, but the experiences there were transformational for me, and I hopefully made some contribution to the lives of the children and the folks that were there. We put on fashion shows and invited the public in. We did cool things. I'm not a very good piano player, but we put a little choir together, and we were doing "Take Me Home, Country Roads" when everyone else is singing church choir.
I love this.
So, life is the adventure if you're willing to have it. And so that was my teaching down there. And I did a second year, but the second year I taught over in Santa Monica, Malibu, in this cool district over there, which was extremely different. And by then I wanted to work on my master's. So the master's, I thought I will apply at Pepperdine, which is down in Malibu. And I wanted to apply at the University of Alberta, which is in Edmonton, which is the city where I was living before. And I got into the University of Alberta quickly. So I thought, well, I'll go back and I'll teach I'll work on my master's, I'll teach and work, and I will come back. And that was the plan, was to come back, because I had started work on my green card and all of that. And when I went back to Edmonton and got settled in about almost not a full year, but I met this guy named Doug, who happened to have the similar last name to my family name. My family name was Sopracoli, and his family name was Soprovich. And I met his brother at it was called the Pursuit of Excellence. It's a program where we're really looking to self-improvement, and self-improvement always been a big part of my life. And he had mentioned that, he had a brother, because we were in some small group or something. And just because the names were so familiar, and he said, yeah, and we're all trying to, he's getting old. He should not to be living at home or something like that. And then we were at a breakfast meeting somewhere, and I said, hey, I heard about you. I met your brother. And we kind of chatted at this breakfast meeting. And then over the next 8 or 9 months, we just got to know each other through a group of friends, which is, I think, a really great way to get to know someone. And we had so many things in common. That pursuit of excellence, that pursuit of strengthening the fabric of goodwill, the willingness to step into and try transformational work that includes other people. So we were surrounded by that kind of a mindset in our group of friends and in what we were doing. And probably it might even have been, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 months after he said, you know what, I'd really like to start a company that, and with you, that is all about growing our people to their full potential. That makes a message about peace on the planet, that is consciousness raising. And so we brainstormed it and started this company. And that's where the name of the business came from, that Aquarian Networks Corporation. So the very purposeful words. We had both read the book, the Aquarian Conspiracy by Marilyn Ferguson, and it was a powerful demonstration of what was happening in the cosmos, which is changing from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age. So Piscean age is based, very heavily based in Christianity with the fish and the world as it was. And now we're moving into the Aquarian age, which is more about the water bearer and the care for the earth, nature, the planet, water, the environment, and that message of peace. So that's kind of the formation of where the business actually came from. And I think some people might have thought we were almost like the hippie era, 20 years too late, but we were ahead of our time in a new time zone of let's look out for humanity in a different way.
Absolutely. But let me just get my head around this. You'd only known each other 8 months. Is that what you were saying? Like, that's just meant to be, isn't it? Like when you're relating it now all these years later, how does it feel? Like it seems like deep connection, trust over 8 months, and then you're creating this corporation with all these amazing values, and you really were taking a stand. And I said to you earlier today, you're a wee bit ahead of your time there, Marie. So remarkable, to say the least. How wonderful that must have been. What's your reflection if you were to say one thing about that time coming together?
It was about trust. It was about trusting life, because I had a secure job and his family, they were in land development and building construction and big things. And he just really wanted to create something that had an impact in awareness of, so he wanted to create this, he had this idea about the earth and, how to make, to create these we called them earth lights. So he could carve, he was quite an artist, and he carved these earth shaped the earth, and he cut them out of it's like ceramic. It turned into ceramics that we learned how to make ceramics earth, and they were painted, and they had little booklets that we wrote. I wrote the little booklets for them, and he created the art, and we started manufacturing that. We had all the kilns, and we learned how to do all these things, making molds. And it was all centered around the earth, and we had t-shirts, make peace, and we'd go to little events and sell them. And eventually we actually had product that was being distributed around Canada. We even had some earth lights or peace candles in Disney, in their outback or their wilderness store. So we sold things, and we did that.
Wonderful.
It was really cool. And so with my full-time paying job, I could work on things after school or on the summertime. And Doug just did this. And the years went by in regards to the company. And once our son was born in 98, we had evolved into making fountains, and Doug had learned how to make these plastic molds that you could pour in resin product and fountains that looked like rocks and things like that. However, at that time, it's like, okay, this has been fun. Now we need to look a little different, because we're not making any real big amounts of money. So we had started by then to also buy and renovate and fix houses and sell them, and then doing some stuff on the side for other people and in their homes. So the company switched from developing these products of earth lights and peace candles and t-shirts and all kinds of great plethora of things that we used to make, to actually renovating. So that's where the renovation became the art. And we would really look at building a company that continued, that really was about growing people to their full potential. So now, we used to make these products, and now we are renovating homes and growing our people to their full potential. It's a different medium. We're working on houses now, and it just became that avenue. And that's where the company, the renovation portion of the company, which I did sell a couple of years ago, really took off. And in 2011, Doug was diagnosed with lung cancer, stage 4 lung cancer, which was shocking and horrific. He was 50 years old. And that's when there was another major shift in our lives, because he was really sick. And we had some time together to think about where do we go with the business and what do we do with what's going on here. And so in the beginning, he still was helping out as much as he could. As time went on, it was very evident that he would pass away, as much as we wanted to believe that there are some people who can recover from stage 4 lung cancer. But I mean, that's a whole story and journey in itself of how that shapes and carves a person, and transformation, and what are we really here for, and what's important. And so I made the decision I looked around in the business, Mary, and I asked myself, who here can lead this company? Who would I follow? And I really tried to try on some of those feelings for, maybe this person can do it, or maybe that person. And it didn't land. And I thought, if this business is to go forward, if this company is to go forward, I have to be willing to give it a try. If I can run a school, by that time, I certainly had my master's. I was a vice principal of a school. And I thought, if I can do that, I know this business. I know I may not be a builder by training, but I do know people, and I do know how to lead from my strengths. And we have a powerful team that's been working together and working well, and we're on emerging as a leader in the industry. So let's give it a shot. So I told Doug, I said, if I'm gonna take over this business. And he was 100% behind me in taking the business over. And we talked as much as we could before he was unable to really focus on anything like that, and passed away. And so I did. I stepped in and gave it my best shot, and learned a lot, and looked at the strengths of everyone in the business, and who they are, and what they're best at, and some movements there. And what am I good at? What are some things that I can bring to this company? And one of the first things that I had been working on it a little bit when Doug was still alive. He wanted to have some stories written about projects, and I connected with a magazine called Home Decor and Renovation magazine. And then I started interviewing past clients. We had lots of beautiful pictures of before and after. And I interviewed clients. I learned about the business. I learned about things that really worked, and things that might not have been, that could have been done better. And I was able to get those stories published in this magazine for a period of probably 7 or 8 years in a row, every couple of months. And I started also writing for other renovators that were in our organization. So really worked with the Canadian home builders and our renovation committee in Edmonton, and started promoting some of their work through another organization that we are all part of, which is called Renomark. So who are the good renovators in your community? How do you get connected to them? And so as part of what I did is I also wrote about, get them to come out to the meetings. Everybody gets to pick in this month who's going to get their story into this magazine. So it worked together. And so I put it together. They had to pay to put their picture in the magazine, but the articles of why you would want to work together as renovators, or honor there's lots of good people out there, lots of great companies. So helping them out. And I loved that. I loved promoting and supporting other companies and other people, and writing things. And so we really accelerated the growth of the business by doing that, and keeping our clients happy and doing great work. Yeah. So it was fun. It was fun.
Wow. But you know, the other thing is that I'm hearing, and also what I read about you, there was something underpinning all that. It was about creating and supporting individuals to work to their strengths. That's one of the things that you've addressed. You know, we all made sure we were doing what we were good at, and also creating a fabulous corporate culture where people were appreciated, not only appreciated, but celebrated. And that's been one of the things, you know, for years, that's something you do very well. And yes, you wrote about people, but is it fair to say that's what was underpinning all of that through that time, that you actually, and even in your teaching, I'm sure, when it's funny, I was smiling about fashion shows, and of course that's what you would have done. You know, it was just part of who you are and who you were evolving. And now you're in, you know, here you are at this time that we're talking about corporate. Tell me how important it is to shine the light on people when they're not able to see their potential of themselves, because you do this very well.
How important it is. It's I think it's essential that we look for the good in others, what they're good at, and acknowledge when they've done a good job. And it's a collective thing. No house gets built all by one person. That would take years, forever, and the person wanting to move in would probably be very old before that house was done. So a renovation project it's teamwork, and teamwork is essential. And sometimes teams don't always get along, or there are things, and we do our best to accommodate that. And I had in my business, I always said, you know, we're here to grow, we're here to learn, and you can stay and grow, you know, work with us, stay and grow, take programs, like become more self-actualized, dig in. So stay and grow, or you need to go and grow, and grow and grow sometimes means it's a hard thing to say, but this isn't working here, and I really want for you to grow. And if it's not working here, then I release you and let you, you know, you need to go and grow. So there's a powerful thing in that understanding of we're here to grow each other to our full potential. And that would mean for me too, I learned I didn't always get it right, but I really worked hard to do what at the moment, at least, I thought was the best thing to do for the greater good of the business and the people who were there. So the importance of recognizing someone when they've done a good job and to celebrate the collective good work of a team is essential. So it's,
Oh dear, the
I
internet.
was,
Oh, Marie, you're cutting in and out, and now you're frozen. Oh dear, don't you love the internet?
I could, so that we award-winning renovation company. We won.
You're
Are you still
freezing.
there?
We didn't get all that because you froze, and I think we got the gist of it though. Sorry to have lost you there for a little bit. I'm glad you're back. And
I am.
yes, indeed. You know, and as I said in the beginning in my introduction, you're way more than this. Tell us more about entrepreneurship and your work with women over the years. Tell us more about the organizations that you work with. Oh my gosh, you've frozen again. Tell us more about your work empowering women.
So one of the things that when I was even in the company was really supporting other women in the industry to step up and get involved. So I led by example. For example, getting in onto the board of directors for the Canadian Home Builders. And at that time, there were no women on the board. So leading by example and being a bit of a role model and encouraging other women to step up to leadership roles, to places where their voices are heard, to make a difference at corporate levels. So in the boardroom, leading companies, and really growing ourselves. And at that time, it was like 2014, 2015, 2016. The women were hungry for more, for wanting to grow themselves and to get into positions where they are in leadership. So it happened at the business level, but it also happened at the sort of at the metaphysical level, at that level where I got involved with an organization called the Global Institute for Evolutionary Women, which is an organization that is based in Europe, but it is international. And there I met women from all over the world who also were growing themselves to their full potential, and whatever businesses they were in also were growing and manifesting and doing amazing things because of their presence and the energy they brought to the dynamics within the corporate world or within the entrepreneurial world. So I have some very dear girlfriends that has been a result of that, and the friendship and the mentoring and the impact we can have on one another it's like contagious. So if she can do it, I can do it. If you can do it, I can do it. We can collectively help each other and raise each other up out of courage, out of believing in one another, out of knowing we don't need to be perfect. We don't need all the answers. We need to go deep. So it's real spirituality has always been there for me, but it really connects us all. So that's a soulful, like, we're doing a boot camp. It is soulful, heartful living and giving our best such that we make a difference on the planet, not just for women, but for men and women and children, for all of us. The draw for women to work together is it's a different energy sometimes when it's just women who are working together. So now I host monthly or every 6 weeks gatherings at my home where women get together. We call ourselves GIFEW, or the Global Institute for Evolutionary Women and Friends. And we have a beautiful something to eat and get to know each other a little bit. Then we sit in what's called a sacred circle and we listen to one another. So everybody has an opportunity to talk about what they're up against or what they're celebrating or what they need. How can we help each other? And they put this message out into the sacred circle. It's a time of not giving advice. It's not about, anything. It's about being heard. And the impact of that, when you go around a room of, 15 to 25 women, is really breathtaking. And there's often a little sacred word or a meditation or something before we close the circle. And after we close that circle, there's a little bell, and then we can go have dessert and talk some more. And the conversations that come out as a result of that are transformational. It's really remarkable what comes when we are heard and we are able to speak without getting like advice, you just to share it. And then later there can be examples or sharing of experience, or, if I was in this, it reminds me of something I did, or, we share and we learn from one another. So that's transformational work. And I have witnessed the impact of that in many, many occasions. And I could share several stories of women who've just taken on really big, what might have seemed like daunting events or projects that have happened. And whether it's fundraising or awareness raising or bringing entrepreneurial spirit to a a diverse group of women, those things really transform through that kind of an experience. So pretty cool.
Oh, that's beautiful. I remember when I was a psychotherapist, I was reading this book, and I'm kicking myself that that I never got to recall who the author was. But back then we were talking about therapy, and there was lots of surveys and research done. And people asked, why do you go to therapy? You know, what's the whole purpose? And do you know what the number one thing was? To be heard.
Wow.
And here you are doing it ever so naturally. And I think it's very powerful and underrated what you're saying, for people to have an opportunity, not just an opportunity, but for you to be in your home. My goodness, what a beautiful environment. So you set up the scene, don't you? The scene is already set before these women come together. And the trust mostly, and even if I was a new person to your circle, the trust would already be there. So
Yeah.
look, inside I'm thinking, oh, wow, that is where the juice comes from. That's the thing that helps us thrive, isn't it? Just
Yeah, it is.
and say,
Yeah.
this is what happened, and guess what? Or, you know, one of my because this way sometimes is always easy in life and in business, but when we feel like we're going down the slippery slope, to have a circle like that, to turn up and just talk is very powerful. How important do you feel that women in leadership are to our global world in these current times? Tell us some more about that.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Big
If there were
question.
more women, yeah, we wouldn't be in the crises that we are in now, for sure. Because women are the nurturers of humanity. Like we wouldn't be having nearly the problems of whether it's climate or fighting or clash or ego, or, you know, how many times we tell our kids to play nice in the sandbox and just really be kind. I think kindness is such an important, just be decent human beings. Think about other people, have some empathy. It's not all about just world dominance. It is really about empowering people to their full potential. We want our children to grow up and be healthy, contributing citizens who've got, you know, a real grasp on who they are at their core, at our our beings, and that they live productive lives from there. You know, I'm going to digress for a minute and tell you about something I used to do when my son was little. So I was teaching, and I only have one child. He's 27 years, or almost 27 years old now. We used to drive around, and I used to listen to a lot of Wayne Dyer. So I believe I was born in the 90s, and Wayne Dyer is one of my role model heroes. Been at many of his events and had all his CDs. And I used to drive around with Wayne Dyer playing on the CD player because I needed it. I needed to retrain my thinking capacity from fear-based thinking to a whole new mindset, which is really about love, possibility, and full potential. I would listen to these CDs over and over and over and over again. One day, this little kid who was sitting in the back in his car seat, he said to me, "Mommy, what's my destiny?"
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Our impact, you know? And I think of, you know, when we start thinking about destiny, that child, his name is Levi, he was 13 years old when his dad got sick. And he was absolutely an incredible child who was able to be there with us. Doug, you know, he had his treatment in the hospital and those kinds of things, but his Doug's dream at the end was to come home and be at home and have a normal, you know, we're birthed often at home and we die if we can, at home in our bed is the place where we want to be. So we made everything as possible as we could to bring Doug home after there were no more treatments and his anything chemo related was over. And we set the TV up in the bedroom, and we had the most normal family time as we could. And the passing of that was part of our life experience. And so then there was just the two of us, and we navigated, and some of the things that I really knew to Levi, I said, we're going to travel, you and I. We're going to go and make some new memories. We have to go do these things. So finding life after that. But the connection that he had to his dad and the family that we had, the experience of people die. They do. And I think if we've sanitized it too much, we don't really understand the full impact of, our own life experience. So he's a very mature, beautiful young man who has learned a lot of lessons in life, sometimes hard ones, but he's really living his destiny. He's just a kind, sweet man who's I'm just incredibly proud of him. But all those things. So we need to be the role models, seek to be the change we're looking for in the world, as Gandhi would say. Like, we need to do that all the time, whether it's with our children or the people that we're employed with, working with, anybody we're working with, people that were our friends and neighbors. We really need to be that which we would love for other people to be to us. And kindness and generosity of spirit and encouragement and vulnerability and celebrating, all of that. Life is full of lots of tough stuff. And we'll get through it. It's way easier to get through it when we have communities and connections with others where we can simply just show up and be heard.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. Levi, hey, what's my destiny?
Yeah.
I think that'll sit with me for a while. It's a beautiful thing. So
Yeah.
what are your plans? What are you doing now? What does your future look like for the change? I'm sure you're real out there, you're doing it. What sort of change are you looking to make now, right now and forward?
Yeah. Well, I am it's hard to say I'm retired because I still have rental properties and things like that, but I'm retired from the regular flow of business. So retired from teaching a long, long time ago, sold a major, like the renovation portion of the company. So I don't really have to do anything. So I just get to show up, Mary, and live my best life and make a difference and be as nice and as kind to anybody that I come in contact with. I invite women to my house and we talk about things. I'm working on a book right now that's telling the story about caregivers and survivors of cancer. So caregivers of those who've passed with a loved one who's passed away, and women who've survived cancer, and another brother-in-law, and compiling that. So what do we learn from this journey? Life, we are vulnerable creatures, we're in this talk that I'm going to be working on with this workshop that we've got coming up is about, the meet your soul, and meat being that our body is meat and our soul is more than that, the light in our body. How do we bring that light into this meet your soul and make a difference while we're here? Because it's a short little, it's a short spark in the sky, and our light is our soul is in the light. So letting that light shine and encouraging and fanning the flames for others to really grow to their full potential, to believe in themselves, to know that sometimes it's tough, like there are hard things, and we will get through. We will make the most of this, and you're not alone, and you are enough. We are enough. And together it's just a whole lot more fun, easy, and so I get to do that every day, doing whatever I do.
Oh, that's just fabulous. My goodness. Our podcast is called The Richness of Our Lives, and we have had so much richness from you. Well, I certainly have. And I know that our listeners and viewers are going to absolutely love what you have to say here today. I thank you so much for taking the time, because even though you are, retired, although I don't really believe it, I think you probably do more now than you used to, but I'm guessing. But thank you. And I look forward to having another conversation with you, Marie. I appreciate your time today and your views and your values and mostly your wisdom. Thank you.
This week's episode has come to an end, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time